Welcome to our show, Never Trust a Fart. We are broadcasting on Twitch to begin with, and I take it, I add some music, edit it up, put it on YouTube on every Wednesday, so this will show up on Wednesday. If you would like to be a guest on here, let us know. We will invite you to our Zoom meeting, which is what we're using the format here. That's what this is, Zoom, streamed over to Twitch and then recorded for YouTube. In Fremont, California, we're both from...
University of Southern Fremont.
Yep, we're originally from Fremont. We're now...
Hey, which actually, hold on one second,
yeah,
Doug.
Go ahead.
You realize that college right now is in the line of fire for those lightning unit fires.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of Fremont is being evacuated. I got a friend on the north side offering parking spaces for people that need to evacuate out.
Wow, it's something else up there.
Exactly.
Down there.
What I was going to say was the way we originally met. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to jog your memory on that one. Go ahead about where we originally met and.
Yeah, we originally met in a cafeteria in Ohlone College. You see, Bob was dating this girl. I was dating her mother. And before you go jumping, he wasn't cradle robbing, and I wasn't robbing the grave. It was a stepmother, so that's my saving grace. And then later on, we re-met at New United Motors, which is now a Tesla building, and we both worked there for almost 4 decades combined.
Yeah,
that's
a time.
Scary thought. One of the things at day shift, we had this group of people that we met at lunchtime. Did you want to go into that again? Because they totally missed that whole.
Sure. Well, let's go back to my side here. Like Jack is saying, that we actually met at met years ago, but we would work together, and we had a round table in our cafeteria where we worked. And initially, it was just myself and my father. Then occasionally, Jenks would show up, and a couple of other people show up. Jenks worked out there with his father, and he'd come on by and say hi once in a while, and his mother would drop by and say hi once in a while. And it got to the point where that table turned into a diaspora of intellect. I don't want to say that Jenks and I are like huge brains here, because well, at least I know I'm not. But we had everybody out there. You had the low-level assembly line worker, not saying anything about the intellect by the low level, but I'm talking about ranking in the system, all the way up to engineers, and in some cases we had vice presidents sitting with us, talking with us for a little bit.
Yeah, that's right, we did, didn't we?
And the neat thing about it, it became cathartic for a lot of people. They'd sit back and talk, and we'd laugh. And if you had thin skin, you couldn't sit at that table, because it was going to be your turn in the barrel one of those times. And as we go along with our stuff, unless we want to talk about Mr. Today, we will.
Yeah, go for it.
But we had a lot of fun there. We had a lot of fun there. And one of the people that showed up was, I don't know how you describe him. He was a very kind soul, very nice person, very oblivious to the world around him. And
simple.
He had been working out there since Christ was a mess cook, basically.
Yeah.
And he had developed a reputation of being kind of dingy. And I don't want to use the gentleman's name because this is not fair to him, and I don't want to necessarily do that.
Well,
my father...
We could just, as long as we don't use the last name, we could just use his common name.
He's given. Well, because it's the same as yours, but okay, his name was Doug. Yeah. And there were 2 Dougs at our table. One is that guy right there. But the other one was the funny one. And my father told us a story about him, about when they worked at General Motors, because this plant started out as General Motors, then became New United Motor, which is General Motors and Toyota together. Then it became Tesla, which is the bane of my existence. But
that's a different story altogether.
Yeah, we'll talk about that story when I get the gag order released.
Yeah.
Anyway, Doug and my father would work not necessarily together, but he'd see each other where they were working on assembly lines. And Doug would go walking by my father's workstation every day at a certain time when he'd go on his break. And my father's lead, his what they call team leader now, would see him and make some kind of weird little innocuous sign, and Doug would see him go, didn't know that. And it got to be a daily occurrence where the lead guy would see him and go, and Doug would go, and it was a fun thing. Well, he was setting Doug up for weeks and weeks doing this, and there would be all these little, steel third base and whatever.
Yeah, make sure
it sounds
it's right
like
here because your view is like right here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Anyway, he would do all these little signs and all that, and
Yeah.
Doug would do the same signs. And one day, Doug comes back, and he's carrying 2 large, I want to say 32-ounce Cokes or Pepsis or something like that, in his hands like this, walking down the assembly line. And the foreman saw him, and he says, "Hey, Doug." Doug looks, a big old smile on his face, and he goes, so Doug goes, as he poured this stuff
on aisle 3
over the front of him. And Doug, exactly. And Doug was the person who would come into work on a Monday, and he'd have this big Tupperware container, huge thing. He'd sit it down in front of him and pull out a knife.
He had in his igloo.
Fork. He started going at with it.
Yeah, he had it in the igloo.
Started in an igloo, came out Tupperware with a chicken inside it. And on Monday, it would be a full chicken. Tuesday, it would be a partially eaten chicken, but he'd still go at it. Wednesday, half chicken. Thursday, kind of smelly, quarter chicken. Friday, oh God, it was nasty. But there were also the days that he didn't bring any money at all or any food at all. And we'd give him some of our food to help out because I don't want to see anybody go hungry. And his common excuse was, "Oh, well, the kids wanted seconds last night, so I didn't get anything to eat." And we kind of felt sorry for him, so we'd help him out. And he would keep us totally amused with stories about trains and sayings. Anything you talked about would end up as a train. Doug, you want to take that one?
Well, I was going to say was, with the chicken, it got to the point where like Thursday and Friday, we're all vying to have somebody next to us so we wouldn't be the one next to the chicken.
Yeah.
And also we were, I didn't really get it too much, but everybody was trying to vie to be on his left side because that was where the wad of duct tape was on his glasses. Couldn't see you.
Yeah, so he couldn't see you retching. There were days that he would come in and talk about. This guy was a savant when it came to about train schedules. He could talk about the Amtrak Coastal Express,
the
or
names, the routes,
California Zephyr,
the times,
and exactly what time it would show up in Santa Barbara on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
He'd know these things. I was totally blown away that anybody pay attention to that, but he knew this stuff. And we would keep bets at our table. Everybody pull out a buck and put it in a kitty in the middle of the table, and we'd say, "Okay, 27th word, right?" No, I'm going to say 13th word. But the first time he'd mentioned train, how many words in the conversation? And one person would be counting words. Okay, who had 17 today? And we have all the money over to Kevin.
Yeah.
And he never realized we had this.
I did the first time. I sat there and I said, "Hey, let's bet on when does he say the word train?"
That's right.
Yeah, we all bet a quarter, I think it was, or 50 cents. And he sat there and he said it on the 12th word. And that was my guess. And all these quarters went flying across the table at me. And he's all, "What just happened?"
But no, he was fun. And there was a couple of maintenance guys out there that, some of them didn't like him because he didn't really add to the overall intellect of the table. But I think he did add to the comic relief. And it was, like I said earlier, it was cathartic. We had that area for 45 minutes, and it was our chance to get through the day. We look forward to seeing our friends and then go back to work and see you tomorrow. And it was enjoyable.
I'm going to interrupt here for a second. I want to thank Clone 990 for following us. Tugger, Clone, anybody, if you guys want to get in on this conversation, drop us a note. Let us know. We'll invite you to our next Zoom meeting. We don't know when the Zoom meetings are. They're just kind of random through the week. And then we clean it up and put it on YouTube. Yeah, we'll set up a meet day, and all three of us will get together. So, anyways, back to Doug. The wad on the side of the glasses, and it's always the same pair of glasses. Yeah, exactly, on the left side of his head. So,
and we were lucky because where we worked, we had such a great medical and dental and optic program that there's no reason why he had to have a wad of tape on the side of his glasses. We also were paid handsomely, so you could afford,
Wasn't he maintenance?
Many. No. He was a conveyance driver or inspector. He was a final line inspector. I think he put the tape with the cars.
Yeah,
he wouldn't have been maintenance because he had the IQ of a golf ball.
He still made some good money, but if I remember correctly, it was a single wage, and in California, good luck being the only wage earner.
Well, anywhere in the world now, but yeah.
Yeah, I tried that my first marriage. Oh my God, that was rough.
Well, thanks to COVID, my wife is trying that right now. No, we had a lot of fun with those people there, and Doug was just our comic relief. And the thing was, we would take care of Doug. We could make fun of Doug, we could play with Doug, and he'd play along with us.
But he was one of us.
Yeah, he was one of us. But if you ever said anything or said something against Doug, you'd have all of us on top of you like a pack of spider monkeys. So it was a nice friendship. For those of you that are joining us, welcome aboard. You're going to notice that this is just two old farts talking about what we used to talk about at that table. And it could be anything. We'll bring up politics. We'll bring up former loves. We'll bring up, you name it, and we'll talk about it. And both of us are relatively opinionated. I'm usually a little bit more so, and Doug has been a very tempering feature in my life, kind of cooling me down sometimes.
Oh, I don't know. Lately, though, the last decade or so, I've been paying attention to politics. I've been more vocal. At least I feel it. I wanted to get your take because the DNC just had their convention last week. Of course, they waited to the last minute to put Kamala Harris, tap her on the shoulder. What's your take on that last minute, add-on?
You mean the idea of bringing her in as VP?
Yeah.
Not saying too many negative things about Kamala. She's not one of my favorite people by a long shot. But to me, it looked like the total definition of racism and sexism when they went out and they said, we're going to bring on, or when the front runner, the former vice president said that he's going to announce a black woman to be that. No longer did he go after content of character or ability or accomplishments. Now we have set up a litmus for you to follow in order for them to be first with a nomination again. And last time around, we were first with the first African-American president, and a lot of us voted for him, hoping for the best. I remember driving down the road after he got elected and really having a good feeling about what was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I started seeing...
Alternative was Bush, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, Bush had already run his time. The other one was...
Who ran against him?
I forgot.
On the first...
McCain.
Yeah. And McCain, it was a bit extreme right.
He was a little bit dodgy.
Yeah.
And he didn't really do too much for bringing on Sarah Palin, very attractive woman, but didn't really have the oomph that I wanted to see in the White House. But bringing Kamala Harris to me would have been okay. I kind of expected him to go that political direction,
right?
A little bit more left wing that I would go for. But what bothered me about it is when he announced in a preamble that it's going to be this gender and this race of person.
Almost tokenized it.
It tokenized it. I think it belittled it, and I think you took away from the specialty of the moment.
Yeah, what could have been?
I think, it could have been a lot more. So. I don't know, and I'm kind of apprehensive about her because I lived in California when she was the attorney general there, and I remember a gang member pulling an AK-47 and blowing a cop away in San Francisco, and her advising everybody, well, I'm not going to go for the death penalty because I just don't believe in it.
Yeah, that's right.
Killed a peace officer,
and
she was against that. She had a lot of baggage and still does, and I'm just not too fond of her.
I didn't like what she did to Kavanaugh.
No, Kavanaugh, I think what she did to him was heinous.
Exactly. That's
and to his family, because that's one of the reasons I'm not going to run for office. I mean, I've had a lot of people say I should run for at least city or county office. I might do that. I've actually run in the past, but I don't want to go anything for any major because I don't want to have an ex-girlfriend from way back saying, yeah, well, he stuck me with a bill when we went to McDonald's that day. Or something. Now, I haven't had a tumultuous past. I'm kind of a milquetoast kind of person, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't want to necessarily be dragged through the mud. And I think that's what she did to Kavanaugh. And his whole family had to sit there and watch it happen.
Yeah, my significant other said the same thing when I suggested, maybe doing something more active. She says, no, it ain't happening because they'll get into your everything and we don't need all that brought up.
That's exactly it. And I even had it when I ran for water board of Alameda County in Fremont way back in the day, back when Obama was running.
They sat there and got into your pass over to water board?
Yeah. And I had a couple of incumbents. I don't even remember their names now. but I had people voting for me because I wasn't an incumbent, which is very telling.
Yeah.
But I had them jump all over me. He's a chef. What does he know about that? Well, I know about paying bills, and I know that my water bill goes up if there's too much rain, and it goes up if there's not enough rain, and it goes up when there's the right amount of rain. And my platform was stop. We don't need to keep on raising the bill. Mm-hmm. So they didn't like that, and I got totally dragged through the mud in the newspaper. Also, hey, when the League of Women Voters says they want to, endorse you, they want your endorsement, or they'll give you an endorsement for a $2,000 donation, or that little voter pamphlet that the county sends out to you. If you want to put anything in that, that's going to cost you an extra $1,000. Yeah, you have to have money to get into politics. And I ran an unsuccessful campaign. I'll say it right now. I paid a total of about $3 or $4 for my entire campaign. That's when I bought Halloween candy, and I'd labeled Irvin for Alameda County Water. I gave it to kids at Halloween, and that was about it. And I still garnered 17,800 votes because people saw me as a new person, or there's a lot of name recognition because you can't be born and raised in a town without people knowing who you are.
Right.
And if you know me on Facebook, if you know me on any kind of social media, if you know me in our circles like you do, Jenks, I'm a loud, obnoxious person, and a lot of people know me, whether they like it or not. They know me. So I think that having the money to run in politics is a sad state of affairs, because there's a lot of fantastic people out there that do a fantastic job. They're either A, afraid of having an ex relationship brought up and thrown in the mud for everybody to see, or B, they don't have the $50,000 to start saying, I want to try and make a better place for our kids.
Now, mind you, you will get the money back, and look at, look how much money they make.
Yeah.
Which is scary in itself.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, I have a rather large disdain for politicians. I don't care if you're a D, an R, or what behind your name. If you're a politician, you've already knocked yourself about 15 points down on my ethics level. There are a few out there that I will withhold for right now that I admire, and I think are pretty good at what they do, but that's because they're pissants and they're going on over there and they're sniping at the systems. And I think that's important for us as all to do. We all need to be muckrakers and to challenge the people that are telling us that they're going to raise taxes on us again.
Yeah, and why? Just to pad your own wallet? No.
Exactly. That's what's going on here. And I'm not a fan of anybody that says I'm going to take your guns, raise your taxes, or tell you how to raise your kids.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Well, that's another reason why I'm a sucker to get out of California. I sat there.
California's.
Yeah.
Oh, go. I'm sorry. I take it all the time. Please.
No, that's okay. I'm definitely a firm believer in, spare the rod, spoil the child. I mean, don't go around beating your kids, or anything like that. That is absolutely wrong. But at the same time, sometimes a timeout just doesn't cut it. You got to be a parent. And, I sat there and I took some foster kids in, when I was married. And I employed that same logic, I raised them as I was raised, back in the late 60s, early 70s. And, I didn't hide it either. I went to we had to check in every once in a while with the child services. And I told them, I spank. I use my hand. I don't use a belt, unlike my father. And it's like these kids were taken from home to home. The child services told us these are the worst case scenarios. One kid pushed a little old lady down some stairs. They just can't find a home for these kids because of this. We had these 4 boys, and I sat there and I raised them as if they're my own. We had them for a year before mom and dad were able to take custody back. And in that year, they became normal kids. And I told child services what I was doing, and they just kind of turned a blind eye because I was getting results,
And it's sad, too, because I've worked in a juvenile hall setting. I've worked in...
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And I've seen what happens when these kids come through and nobody's giving them any attention. Attention, okay, can be good and it can be negative.
Exactly.
But they're still getting attention. And I'm not saying, this is like you, I'm not saying take out a belt and beat the snot out of the kid, but I do think a good firm, glare, lack of privileges or something like that is a good tool. And I think
exactly
the evil eye, knowing that there could be pain come up, hey, you do that and we're going to talk, is a big, strong, motivator. And I've seen these kids come through with nobody. I mean, I've seen a young boy. This was a horrible thing, man. His lone mother raised them. There was no baby daddy. He was out of the picture. I think the father was in prison, as a matter of fact, for life, for murder or something like that. And it was somewhere out in Louisiana, so they would never see him up here in Oregon. So he was out of the picture. Mother decided that these two kids are really curbing her lifestyle. She wanted to go out and find boyfriends and bring them home and party.
Right.
But you can't do that when you're living in an RV in the middle of the woods.
Space
she was
limited.
doing. No moving water. Yeah, no moving water, no plumbing, no electricity. The kids learned how to hunt and how to trap. They learned how to make fires to survive. And the mother got tired of the kids one day, and you okay? And
I'm hearing noises behind me. I was thinking there's a kid, so I checked, and then
never trust a fart.
There's my my coronavirus behind me. Yeah,
anyway, the mother actually lit the kids' trailer on fire and tried to take off.
Holy cow!
Locked the kids inside, and to this day, the young boy was still, very much defensive of his mother. And if anybody said your mother did something really horrible to you, that's my mother. You don't talk about her. Okay, so I could definitely see the devotion the kids have to a parent. I also see what happens if the parent isn't doing well and what happens to the kid. And if they go and foster and they get the treatment that you gave, it's a positive experience. It helps them out. It might move them forward. But a lot of these kids, a lot of people don't want to have the kid who's been challenged or challenging, and they avoid them. And pretty soon the kid becomes a ward of the state, goes from shelter to shelter. It's abused in the shelters. I've seen that happen.
Yeah, actually, I talked to a psychologist when I was becoming an RT, respiratory therapist.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our memes, there's RT mentioned. I was just thinking, people don't know what that is. I didn't know what it was until I was dating this RT student. That's a different story. Anyways, he explained to me that one kid that I mentioned, I pushed the little lady down the stairs, it's like he was after attention. Albeit it might be negative, but it was attention.
Attention, yes.
And it's like, oh my God, he's right. It's, he didn't care if it was positive or negative. It was just, he was getting some. Little shout out, that's funny, respect the drip skill. So we did notice that. He put on there, farts are yummy.
Okay then.
takes all kinds. Okay.
Hey, this morning was a very good year.
Yeah. So, anyways, you were saying you met all these kids, and one lady.
They have a tendency to scare away normal people from coming into a foster situation to help them out. But if we don't help these kids out, they become institutionalized, and they get right up to their 18th year, and they don't know what they're going to do. A lot of these kids get kicked out of youth shelters at 18. Yeah, that's exactly the case. I've seen a young girl that did not have all of her faculties. She wasn't quite up there, but she turned 18 and the state failed her. There was nothing that she wanted them to do. She said no to every service that they were going to offer. So it's not the state's fault. It is her fault, but she didn't know any better. And now she's walking the streets of town. Yeah. They turn 18 and they have nowhere to go. So how are they going to get food? They're going to steal it. How are they going to get money? They're going to steal it. They're going to rob somebody. And that starts them on that course to institutionalization.
If they don't take advantage of the resources they have available, yeah, they want to take the easy route.
And those resources are good, Doug. They're important. A lot of people look at it like they're free handouts and stuff, welfare and all that. But no, a lot of these programs are there to try and protect us, to protect society from these kids.
Yeah, get them a head start and get them out there and be productive, and it's put into a bad light, like it's a handout that's always going to be there. It's like, no, it's meant to get you back on your feet so you can do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, everybody, if you're watching, I'm sorry I rambled on with that one. We went from talking around a table to the vice presidential candidate in the challenging party, to talking about rearing kids in the 2000s and what happens in the institutions. That is kind of how our table would go. We would talk about stuff like this all the time, and we'd go all over the place. You don't know. There's no script in front of us. This paper here is just bills I got to pay. But
I don't even have that.
There's no script here. We don't talk ahead of time. Jenks gets a hold of me and says, hey, I'm online. You want to go? Sure. And we'll talk. So we really don't know what we're talking about. We know what we're talking about, but we don't know how we're going to discuss it. Earlier, if anybody was here, I think I talked about getting a kilt.
Thanks for joining us with Never Trust a Fart. If you want to support us, please go on to Patreon. You can see it on the graphic right there on how to get to it. We call in on Zoom. Thank you, Zoom. Record it on Twitch. Then I go ahead and take that recording, edit it, and we place it on YouTube every Wednesday. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you can subscribe, that would definitely help us out. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace.